So we're going to take a look at a couple jumps from Kobe's illustrious career. We're going to break them down, and we're going to do our best to learn from this man's time with us on this earth. So this is one of those videos that you hope you never have to make. And I'm sure you're all aware of the tragedy that happened yesterday. The world lost a legend, just an absolute legend. Kobe Bryant, his poor daughter Gianna, 13-year-old, taken in a helicopter crash in Calabasas. And I was talking with Coach Chase, and Coach Chase is the other part of Project Pure Athlete, and he actually had the opportunity to not only meet Kobe, but play for him in an NBA event as part of one of his teams where they coached against each other, was LeBron and Kobe. And it's pretty unbelievable how much impact this one man had on not only people that met him, but people that just looked up to him and idolized him from so many different respects, from mentality to contributions to the game, and just overall as a person. Our thoughts, our prayers go out to him, his family, his friends, his fans, and it's been a rough 24 hours for all of us. You never think that you're going to be suddenly mourning someone in effectively the prime of their life. He just hit retirement and hit his stride, and from all we knew, he was the happiest he's ever been, being able to spend so much time with his family, his daughter, and his other daughters as well. And we thought, we wanted to be able to do our part in as a tribute to him and his life and his legacy and what we are passionate about. And I believe that, if he was to, be able to see this, that he'd want us to do what we were passionate about. That was his mentality. His Mamba mentality was relentless, and for us it's relentlessly pursuing education through our passion, which is the art and craft of jumping. So we're going to take a look at a couple jumps from Kobe's illustrious career. We're going to break them down, and we're going to do our best to learn from this man's time with us on this earth. So let's just go do it.
All right, so I can remember this play. I watched this not in person, but on TV. And obviously from just a highlight perspective is one that's going to be on, this is why it's one of his greatest plays of all time. But from a jump perspective, I think it really gets us some really cool evidence of these points of performance and how well they work in a game scenario. So from this top view here, what we see is Kobe slips the ball behind to kind of help create some space, gets defense out of his way, opens up the lane. So now he has full access to the rim. And what we see here is really cool transition. I want to scoot right through this to kind of that, there we go, that full frame, nice close up as we see that slip right here. He's going to make a quick contact off that right foot. You'll see that right foot touches, and he's already transitioning, like such reactive awareness here to be able to immediately push. That push is going to help get that left foot, his block or his takeoff foot, far enough in front of his hips that he can utilize his strength as a jumper. So Kobe Bryant is a 1-foot power jumper. Power jumpers require a little bit of extra ground contact time, which just means extra time for this leg to be able to store or amortize and release energy. What we see here is he throws that leg far enough out in front that it gives this kind of trail leg, or this right leg we call this free leg, time to be able to sweep and provide a little bit more upward drive. A very aggressive knee drive here through takeoff, and he's right into rotation. So just such a heads up play to be able to put himself in such good position. So number one is obviously foot's in front, so we want to make sure that we send that leg out in front. Number two is really good management of that center of mass, so it's back. And we want to keep that center of mass back so it has plenty of time to spend on the floor. We can see here if we kind of put those points of contact, center of mass to the floor, we get this nice triangular shape, obviously a very stable base. Gives him time to be able to drive that knee through and not sacrifice his takeoff vector or the angle of takeoff, because we know from where he's positioned in this jump that not only does he have to rotate, but has a steep rotation. He doesn't have a lot of space to transition through. So what we see here is if he would have planted that foot but allowed that trunk to fall a little bit further ahead, what we'd see is a much shallower takeoff angle, and he might very well have pinned himself on the high side. So just like a beautiful facilitation of jump with that kind of intuitive behaviors that he has as an athlete. So just so many small points of performance that we can pick up on here. We got this nice little hop step, right foot contacts, and immediately, this is my favorite part, if we play that kind of through in full, I guess it's still slow motion, but top, boom, there's such a quick reactive push into this block right here. So with one foot, this takeoff leg here, we refer to as a block, and block equals break, and in 2 feet, it's the same thing. It's the last contact as our block. Our block really is what provides those braking forces to transition upwards. Yes, he's jumping off that leg, so technically, he's planting that foot. It's a takeoff leg, but what we see in terms of nomenclature and terminology is that leg is really the block foot, where this right foot here, we term or deem as his plant. So transitioning through that block, you can see that ball from this side here is going to get kind of swept across so that he's able then to create a little bit more kinetic energy from the upper body through that takeoff as well. So if you are practicing 1 foot jumping, if you are a power jumper indeed, where you have that low sweep of that trail leg or your free leg here, where sometimes you'll even hear like a squeak off the floor or a toe drag, and despite what most people might say, that toe drag is not a terrible thing by any means. It's largely kind of an auto regulation of speed. It helps to kind of control the momentum through takeoff. So that nice low sweep here, we want to think aggressive knee drive, and we can see it here as he gets that. Not only is he creating an aggressive knee drive, but he's also creating rotation around his hip to be able to transition into that 180 finish. So just some beautiful, beautiful display of athleticism on this 1 foot jump. Let's watch it again. Beautiful. All right, next play here we're going to get into is an example of a 2 foot jump, and Kobe was a master of just finding opportunity. And what we see here, there's going to be some other good angles, but we'll watch the play all the way through, is we have a nice dunk facial here. We love seeing that. Love seeing that as fans, but if we kind of sweep around to get this little bit closer look, what we're going to see is, actually I think there's even a better angle that we can take a look at here. Let's see, there we go. Okay. So with jump technique and 2 foot jump technique in particular, our crucial strides of the jump here is going to be our second last stride. This big long stride here is what we call our penultimate stride, and Kobe does a phenomenal job of pushing through this stride. That's the behavior we create, and what we found through performing the only case study that's been performed so far on 2 foot jump mechanics and the influence on takeoff success through verticality is that the athletes that display the longer relative penultimate strides are the athletes that are actually jumping in kind of the upper echelons of athleticism. So Kobe is utilizing an extremely aggressive long penultimate stride, but more impressively than the length of his stride is how he doesn't sacrifice the position of his center of mass. So one of the key components of 2 foot jumping is the orientation of this, the center of mass, in relationship to the plant foot and ultimately the block foot on takeoff, or through what we call our plant sequence. So as he pushes into this foot here, we call this our plant foot. Plant equals power, is that he keeps his weight back. Okay, what you'll notice if we draw a nice straight line, yes, the perspective's a little off here. This nice straight line is we have this really nice stable, like we did with that 1 foot jump, this nice stable triangular base. There's a reason, geometrically that we had the pyramids built in series of triangles. It's a very stable shape. As he transitions through that plant, everything is back. We're keeping everything back. All that weight, the center of mass is back, and the primary points of contact, our plant and our block and our plant foot, are leading the hips. And what this is going to do is allow him to what we call amortize or store energy without sacrificing the angle of takeoff or how high he's able to take off. Because in this case, he's having to not only jump and cover distance, he's got to get over top of his defender right here. So he knows that if he's going to go up, he needs to hang that weight back. So as you push through the penultimate, we want to stay tall and back. And you can see as he pushes, he leads with his hip. He's not leading with his head. We call that a push versus a dive. If he was to dive through this stride, what you'd see, and this happens very often, is at the kind of where his hip is, his head would fall forward. We'd end up collapsing into too much forward lean through the torso and really sacrificing the angle of takeoff. He would have ended up just barreling right into his defender. So a really nice intuitive play here by Kobe. Again, obviously, so this position here needs to be spoke about. What we have is a really good example of what we call a stacked position. His plant foot or his power side is right shoulder, right hip, right ankle. We have loaded all on top of each other. And from a biomechanical standpoint, we call this axial loading. It's a very stable position for transferring energy. So he's placed this block foot out here, right? His braking foot. That braking foot provides return energy up into the hip. So we have speed created through the approach. We have a plant to kind of store and release energy, and then we apply this brake, and that brake takes all of this kind of potential energy and kinetic energy and transitions it upwards so that he's able to transition up. So that last foot becomes that braking mechanism that provides that last little bit of kind of elevation to the jump. And what we know from testing is that the block, or this foot here, the last contact, in terms of what we call eccentric loading, or the amount of lengthening of the tissue, experiences much higher eccentric loading than the plant foot, where the plant foot experiences higher concentric loading or pushing force. So he'll push largely through that left leg, whereas the right leg serves more as a braking mechanism and more of a reactive mechanism. So it helps to create this transitional force. So let's watch this again all the way through.
Run out by Kobe Bryant. Behind. Oh! What did I just see?
We just saw what Kobe does best, and that's bring people to their feet with a sensational play.
Bryant. Serving up a facial on Jackson. The power and the explosion of Kobe Bryant just takes off and accelerates the tremendous finish. And listen.
Looking down memory lane and taking a look at a lot of his highlights brings this kind of instant feeling of not relief, but more so just peace, I think, through celebrating his career, through celebrating his life. For people that know him and fans and friends, I think there'll be an immense healing that occurs through exploring these things, like his phenomenal contributions to the sport and the way he touched so many people in his life. We hope that you learned even just one thing from this video. And if you didn't, and if that wasn't your goal and you were just clicking on something to do with Kobe Bryant, we hope that you at least enjoyed your time here. We appreciate that. All the normal YouTube platitudes seem kind of trivial right now. If you want to subscribe to us, go ahead. We'll do our best to continue bringing to you, good quality content. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Yeah, that was a hard one. See you later, guys.